All right, all of you, we're laughing because Blake and I were like, yeah, we're going live, and we haven't done a rehearsal or talked about it. Anyway, so welcome to, this is over on Centerline Systems. So yes, you have reached the right location. Welcome to Centerline Systems for tonight's episode, which is going to be focused on Millstone, our Millstone Self-Reliance group. You remember this beautiful looking guy right over, get my thumb to point the right direction. You know, it's always opposite. Blake. We're gonna do the Millstone Mondays. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but we've decided that we're just gonna air those over here on Centerline Systems for a couple of reasons. One, until we're ready, and we'll talk about again what it is that we're prepping to execute, what we're going to perform here going forward. But until we're ready, well, I have completely different, all these different channels and stuff. Most of the people who are watching this on Millstone are probably over here on Centerline Systems anyway. So it just kind of was, I mean, it's not a lazy excuse, Blake. It's just like, well, it just makes more sense. Just keep it right here until we're ready to go over and start doing stuff, you know, behind paywalls and whatever. Let's just do it over here so everybody gets to enjoy the conversation. So they get to see the glory of your beard.
The beards. Your beard's looking great this winter, by the way.
Your beard is so camouflaged. I don't know if it's your beard or if you're wearing your chair around your face.
Actually, the chair is my beard. Yeah. I've just kind of have drafted it over my shoulders to make a lazy boy. So,
but there is the one streak of gray coming down your beard. That's how we can tell you.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah, again, there's a little coming in on the other side now. I think the little one's adding to that. So
he's only making it better that way, so the little one can see where he's grabbing your beard to pull you around, right? You know,
I understand why they call him handlebars now, because man, seriously, that's like his jungle gym, dude.
All right, hey, so we haven't really decided how we're gonna do Millstone. You know, over here in Centerline, you know, on the Thursdays on the Loadout Lives, I like, you know, reading everybody's comments and interacting. On the CLS After Dark, we just started doing that last week. That was lots of fun. So I think I'm just going to keep with it, you know, and we'll have to play it by ear if it's too much, you know, whatever, but we'll just see. But here, just real quickly, just so everybody knows, we got Gene with a big woo. We got John, the accessorizer, reporting for duty. You got a couple important, and then you know, Gene's a legend here. What up, Gene? And then we got Quest Views. Thank you for being here, Quest Views. And he's saying, what up, Gene? Woo woo. So, all right. Oh, and then we got no shit, VTech Moonwalker. Is this actually live? Yes, it is, sir. I'm finally catching one. Yeah, maybe Mondays is the thing that's going to work for you. But hey, nice to see you over here, VTech. He actually had sent or made a comment. He's like, man, I try these lives and it just doesn't work out with my job and my work schedule. And I'll try to catch these later. And here he is catching one right now. Hopefully he's at work, catching it while he's at work. Hey, Blake, before we jump into it, and boys and girls, we're going to cover a couple different things here tonight for Millstone. I'll just save that. You know how the new word is fluff. I used to call it housekeeping. Let me just do a little housekeeping. Somebody else calls it fluff because apparently I'm wasting your time. You could just fast forward or whatever. But
unless you're watching it live.
Well, and then you're watching it live. Well, then you're here for the entertainment value anyway. So there's no such thing as fluff. It's all entertaining.
Hey, I mean, we are some entertaining assholes, that's for sure. So
you can see how this episode's going to go already.
It's been a long week already. It's only Monday.
2024 was a long year. It definitely can suck it. Yeah, we're already starting that way. Hey, and then we got Learn Me Something saying, welcome back, Blake. Over to you.
Hey, good to see you, bud.
Yeah, nice. You know, hey, on a different note, and I don't know, maybe this is a cheesy thing to do, but I said this on the CLS After Dark, and I think I'm going to say this for all live streams. You know, if you don't mind, you know, just say, you know, you don't have to be engaged in the chat if you don't want to. But what is nice, and I'm not joking, for me as well, you know, it's not that easy to be in front of the camera and just pulling shit out of your fourth point of contact. And it's nice to see where people do the, hey, checking in from here, you know, or you just say a little bit of, you know, like I'm from Northern this, or I'm from here, or I like it when you see I'm behind enemy lines in California or something like that. If you want to do it, leave a little shout out, you know, in the chat where you're from. It's just kind of cool. It helps kind of keep me a little bit, you know, from freaking out. Why am I in front of a camera talking about shit? I don't want anyone to know who I am, type of thing.
Well, it keeps it real, though. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. It's one of the main reasons to do it. It is that community and that interaction. Yeah. So,
Well, and then I think that gives everybody, honestly, that's a great point, Blake, because it gives everybody a frame of reference. Like, Blake and I, our self-reliance survival concerns, if you want to call it survival, however you want to phrase it, is very different from somebody, say, from Arizona, or I just talked to a customer from Australia just right before we went live. So, where she's from, very different concerns, right? Your environmental concerns. It's colder than what is our word? Colder than a witch's.
Colder than a wicked tit.
Colder than a witch's beep beep up here right now. We don't have a lot of snow, but you can see our survival or self-reliance concerns are different from, and we've got tons of water. So water might not be maybe transportation and filtration, but not access, right? Not creating it or whatever. Whereas somebody from a desert or a different environment has a completely different set of concerns than we do. So maybe that's another good reason to chime in with where you're from, because again, what's going on in your operational environment, your physical environment is very different or potentially different from what it is for other people. And there is no cookie cutter to this stuff. So, I mean, and if you think there is a cookie cutter, start your own channel and I guess sell shit to people, because like that is apparently what people want it to be. Oh, just sell me this one thing that does everything and solves all my problems. Oh, if only life was that easy, Blake. Would you buy one of those right now?
No, I have one on my shelf. It's the Bible.
Ooh, good point. Good point. All right. We got Hannah Ben saying she's from northern Minnesota. So we got another Minnesotan here. So, all right. There we go. See, we're starting it off. Way to start it off, Hannah Ben. Yeah, get it going, everybody. Hey, so
northern Minnesota. Like, seriously, though, that's I love it up here, man. It is awesome up here. Oh, well. The environment is awesome up here.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, except for the bullshit politics. Yeah, the environment's really good. Hey, I'm going to just knock it out. The fluff, the housekeeping, Centerline Systems. I shot a video on Saturday. I got to go back and look at it. Yesterday was just a cray day. Today was even worse than yesterday. I want to put it out. I might have to shoot it again tomorrow, but it's about our next business day items. So we made our last batch for Christmas. What we have left over, I'm going to bundle those things. And in honor of South Park, which is a show I do like. Well, some seasons are better than others. We're not going to call it the Black Friday Boondaroo. We're just going to call it the 2024 Boondaroo from that Black Friday episode on South Park. But I've got a limited amount of the Christmas next business day stuff left. It's the next business is still on the website, but that'll probably be coming off tomorrow as I do these bundles, as I do the video. And then my last little bit of housekeeping is 9 January is a loadout live. And I think somebody who's watching is my guest for that night. If they still are, I don't want to say their name if they have to back out. So I'll touch base with that person afterwards, or they can say that they're going to be here so that's going to be our everyday organizer. We're going to do a loadout on our everyday organizer, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek of something else during that Thursday loadout live. And then Friday, myself, DB. So Friday for the CLS After Dark, myself, DB, and I'm not sure if we're going to get P-Rick. I'm still waiting to see. He had an engagement, but that may clear up. But we're going to have another individual from that same kind of space. He's been on before. His name is George. We just call him Triple X. And so anyway, it'll be myself, DB, Triple X, and maybe Patrick, aka P-Rick, on Friday's CLS After Dark. And we're going to wrap up our conversation about the coast bombing, Benghazi, that kind of whole tragedy that was that. That's kind of funny because a lot of that might have to do some of the other stuff we talk about tonight, All right, hang on. So here we go. You must have said something. John says, Blake, that's a great point.
I think it was about the good book.
I think it may have been. Then we got Learn Me Something. He's watching from Lawless, New York.
The deep behind enemy lines there, man.
Yeah, deep. John, I think, is saying he's from Iowa. Then we got Savage. Third thumbs up. Woohoo. Love your AR-15s, America. Some people don't love them. I mean, I know a couple people who are all about AKs, and we love giving each other shit. So
I know who you're talking about.
All right. So, but hey, thanks for being here, Savagely. And then John Dunphy. Oh, it's on. Okay, it's on. All right. So, yeah, John's going to be our guest. He's been on twice before, I think now. He's going to be our guest on Thursday's loadout, and we're going to go over the Edo. And just a last little plug. If you aren't over on the CLS gear chat on Telegram, send me a note. I mean, reach out to me or whatever, and I'll send you the link, because John actually just did a really good loadout over the weekend with his Sherpa belt and his Y harness for hunting. And it's cold where he is too, boys and girls. So he had some really cool pictures, and people share some really cool things over there. Learn Me Something's been sharing a bunch of videos on cooking and fire starting stuff. So kind of like what we're doing here in Millstone, it's just a way to bring a community get together and for all of us to share knowledge with each other outside of this kind of censorship screw tube world that we live in. So, all right, Blake, I've just rambled for most of 10 minutes. Do you want to say hi and give everybody an update? Do we want to talk about the way forward, the subjects, or just get into the heart of the matter of what the F is going on in the world right now?
Well, I would definitely like to see my son off to bed tonight, so I'd say let's just jump right in, both feet.
Do it.
All right, so I'm sure everybody's been following their own little news spheres, their own little things in their own little world, and everybody's super, super busy right now. I wish I could have shared this meme right now. I don't know if I can, but I saw a meme the other day. It was pretty funny, and I think it kind of put a nice little bow on the weirdness of this world. And it's a rage comic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a poorly drawn comic of a guy smoking a cigarette, and a UFO comes down from the sky, and it's a little green man, and he goes, "Hey, we're here." And the dude just takes a drag off the cigarette, and the alien goes, "Aren't you shocked that we're here?" And he's like, "I got a lot of shit going on right now, man." And I'm not saying we got little green men coming down right now, but there's a lot going on. And it is kind of one of those things that it's just, man, it's everything always demanding your attention in every single aspect of it. And whatever it is, I'm just, the big thing that, at least in my local spheres that we've been talking about a lot recently, are these drones and orbs that are in the sky. And whatever they are, whatever possibility they are, it does just seem to me, and to those that I talk about, that it's like it's one more test or one more lab rat experiment, and it seems like going back to the cough time of 2019, when everything got ramped up and we had the pandemic.
We're not doing that on Centerline or Millstone.
Oh,
COVID.
Okay.
No, you know what? If we get somehow censored because you talk, like, I'm not playing that game anymore anywhere on anything in the world. Like, even to our detriment, even you're like, oh, you can't say that. We can't talk about COVID. COVID is a thing that existed.
Absolutely, it is, and it was the quote unquote, quite frankly, a fake pandemic in the grand scheme of things. And you look at what happened during that time period and the ramping up that everybody was pushed through. It was a psychological assault, really, on the vast majority of the world population. And then it was drawn back for a while, and here we are now, staying on the beginning of a new year, and we have the talk of bird flu again. The White House just put out a video of masking up in unity again, so they're starting to get that narrative back out. We have unknown, in the modern parlance of our times, UAPs flying the sky, some of which are probably camera artifacts people are picking up on their cell phones, some of which are genuinely odd entities that we can't explain, things that we see honestly depicted in artwork all throughout history that we've never had a good explanation for. And one of which, and I'll just bring it up really quickly, is a painting, and it's called Celestial Phenomenon over Nuremberg, April 14th, 1561. And what's interesting is it actually depicts orbs and these crosses flying around the sky, and very similar to what we're seeing now. Or you can go back into the 60s. I believe in New Jersey it was called the Wanataq Wonder. Someone that's on the East Coast can probably pronounce that better than I can, but it's a reservoir that's there that again was depicting these same entities that we're seeing in the sky. And maybe it is just another class of weapons. Maybe it is aliens. Who knows? But whatever it is, it's coupled with a global war that's unfolding and going hot on multiple theaters. It's coupled with another supposed pandemic, with what the World Economic Forum calls the fourth turning. It just seems to me like, all right, now it's the shotgun method of let's throw tons of psychological attacks at people and just see what happens.
and let's do it. And that is so. Let me just take a step back. I obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I agree with everything Blake just said. And from a psyops perspective, and Blake and I have been talking about this forever. So if you go back to any of our, mission critical podcasts or any other, even the older Centerline, you're so inundated with bullshit nowadays. You can't keep track of what it is. So just when we're sitting here talking about, survival, self-reliance, hey, it's wintertime. Do you have enough firewood? Did you stock up on propane, or lock in those good propane prices earlier in the year? The self-reliance, being prepared. Those important things are like, your son growing up and, you get more gray hairs, or, how was the garden this year? Or, hey, I got 2 deer this year. I only need 1. Do you guys need some venison? Instead of those conversations, and maybe, and God bless you if you are able to have that be the norm of your day. I really hope it's true, because what Blake just said, that's how I feel. You're so inundated with things. You can't keep up on stories. And I'll tell a little story comment. Somebody said, well, actually, I can just say we brought it up on Friday. Redbeard, he's just like, I can't keep up with it. I tell you, that's what I need you and Blake for. You guys kind of like have that stand back, try to see the bigger picture. He goes, I only have the time to stay focused on my little thing. And, that's what she said. Sorry, Redbeard. I didn't even mean to set you up like that, but I only have time to be focused on my one singular issue that, or the 1 or 2 issues that are most concerning to me. I don't even have time to take into consideration all this other stuff that's going on. And that is by design, boys and girls, plain and simple. Whether that is a psyop by your own government, whether that's a psyop by the League of Shadows, aka evil, Satan, however you want to freaking say it. But if you do take a step back and try to see the big picture, the forest through the trees, you're going to be like what Blake said, like, something's not right here, man. Something is totally wrong. This is not normal. Something wicked this way comes.
Absolutely. And I think that's, whether it's some true malevolent force, whether it's, some cosmic horror we can't understand, or it's more than likely, honestly, just humans being humans and being really good at killing each other. And that's kind of the thing. Sorry, it's getting dark here. I need to grab my charger real quick. And that's kind of the thing is to me, it seems like this is more than anything just shaping up to be more of the same. Since the dawn of time, since we learned to nap flint and make ottles, we were killing each other. I mean, and it's honestly the one really good thing that we're good at. And me and Mark were even talking about this the other day is, let's play with the thought that, okay, say this is totally terrestrial. All right. But what we're actually witnessing is the slow leak of a new technology, or maybe an old technology that's been held back. And it is, any sufficiently advanced enough technology looks like magic to the untrained eye, so that's one of the reasons we're having a hard time wrapping our head around what we're seeing. But what it is it's the new platform. I mean, this one saying, I can't remember who originally said it, man, but it keeps coming back and back into my head. I can't get it out of my head, but it's, we rode into battle on the backs of horses and we flew out in the biplane. And that was World War I.
That was World War I.
To think about that.
I hate to say it, and this is such a sad thing. That was we as humanity lost so much in that war because there were so many bright minds. I mean, literally, so how many people go to war writing just incredible poetry or paintings and things like that. That's what the mental state of a lot of people was back during that period of time. It was very, very different, and not to say that today is bad. I'm just saying it was a very different era. And go back and find out how many artists and poets, just went off to war and then wrote incredible poems or paint, and
I mean, the most masterful pieces of literature and artwork and architecture that we've seen in the last 100 years came out of it. And that's another one of those sayings from World War I is an entire generation of middle class love was spent on those battlefields. You think about if you can separate the human cost from the war, which you can't, you really can't. You have to take them as the totality of the two things together. because the human loss was incredible, but the technological advancement that took place in such a short window of time. I mean, 100 years of technology was developed in a matter of a half decade, realistically. And when you consider that level of development, and because that war machine, that mechanized machine of development and invention, and quite frankly, ingenuity of how to kill each other, is a pretty terrifying thing. And if we are really on the verge of, like we were joking around about the other day, not the next global war, but maybe the first solar war or something along those lines, who knows what's going to happen? And I know I'm getting in the realm of science fiction here, but again, I come back to another meme of our times, which is you best start believing in cyberpunk dystopias because you're living in one. I mean, we really are at the crossroads of I mean, I hate to say it, but like Blade Runner and Minority Report and just all of those slightly dystopic hellscapes that we've all forecasted throughout our lifetime in popular culture. Well, it seems like we've finally come to the nexus of one of them, or at least the early stages of one.
I do like that. You're living in a dystopian. I like that meme. I actually think I've posted that a couple places. I've got that image saved on my phone. Hey, I want to come back over to something you just said, but I kind of lost control here for a sec. So let me just kind of go back. Here's where we were. I asked everybody to do it, so I got to give everybody the props. Savage Lee, he's braced for cold in Southwest Oklahoma, 19 degrees and dropping. Last flight is fading, set to get a deep freeze tonight. Yeah, stay warm there, Savage Lee. And then a quarter tick. Yeah, it's a quarter tick on the century mark scale for the good old USA. And I like how he ends it. And chaos ensues. Yeah, right there. VTech talking about COVID. He was making more to sit at home and hike than actually being at work. I'm surprised they let you go out and hiking because they didn't let that happen in some states. So good for you, VTech. At least you were able to go outside without, the Gestapo coming down and fucking arresting you. You're the only, my favorite is that paddle boarder. Only person on the ocean, and then they're out there to arrest the guy for being out on the ocean by himself paddleboarding.
Oh, but remember, we were never locked down. That never happened, and we've always been at war with East Oceania. So.
That's right. East Oceania, those bastards. New note. East Oceania, our friends, Gene just said they live, springs to mind. Yep. Savage Lee with another one. Space laser fight in medieval times. Yeah, we've all heard that tale. And then we got BCP, Better Call Paul from the Mountain State. How's the livestock, Nick?
Good. We actually made some changes in the coop this year so that we could keep more chickens and not butcher them. So I think we got 23 out there right now. And I'm getting, because the young ones are laying eggs now, I'm getting anywhere from about a dozen to 15 a day, which is pretty darn good. So
again, the things we should be focused on and paying attention to, which is a better way of living anyway. It's hard to do. Then we got Quest Views. We all know who that is. The man, the myth, the legend, Blackbeard. He's asking, do Tesla robots dream of electric sheep? I don't know if Tesla robots dream of electric sheep.
Yeah, only time will tell. Hopefully they follow the rules. I mean, and that's another thing. I'm sure you probably are following this closely, Blackbeard, but AGI maybe was just achieved. I mean, and that's a thing. Like maybe we're going. Who knows where it's going? Like it's every one of the bad science fiction movies and books are all kind of coalescing into our timeline right now.
We'll jump on that in a bit, but that's a great little point, just in case we kind of skimmed over it. If you're really wondering, so again, Blake and I are working behind the scenes. We're trying to get our content, figuring out how we're going to do this. It's not easy. We don't live in the same city. He's got a young one. I'm trying to keep a business going. Like da. But as we're working through it, our goal is the first 3 months. The first quarter of this year. And I guess here's what I'm really ultimately getting at. We decided to work through it for the first quarter because neither one of us are really 100% sure what this world even looks like. And there's really almost nothing. I mean, it's not that there's nothing that you can't learn right now. I don't mean it that way. You should try to continue learning and improving your skills and rehearsing and creating new, friendships, new relationships, adding to your circle, that kind of stuff. You definitely should, I'm not saying the world's over, but I think Blake and I, at least, and you guys can chime in the chat, we're at this point where it's like you are probably as best prepared as you can be right now, or you're not prepared at all. And it is what it is. And now it's just, as we said during those couple episodes, keep your hands inside the ride, because it's going to get crazy here. Honestly, the next 2 weeks. I mean, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I do know that quote now, by the way. I actually went back and watched it to remember Amasarala, the head of the unit from The Expanse. She's like, we disagree, and one of us is wrong. I really hope it's me. And she says it with a smile. I really hope it's me, but I'm pretty sure it's you. I mean, that's when she's saying, like, only one of us is wrong. We're on two separate sides of an argument. One of us is wrong. One of us is right. And then she focuses on the negative, and she goes, I think you're wrong. She goes, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope it's me, but I'm pretty sure it's you. And then, so that's kind of what we were getting at, is like, so again, not trying to say that there's anything that we couldn't teach anyone, or there's nothing that people shouldn't try to learn right now. But in my humble opinion, we're in the churn. We're in the middle of the nexus, and you kind of just gotta, mentally be prepared every day. Continue your preps, keep making more food, stockpiling what you can, be prepared, have water. I mean, again, we can go over that kind of stuff, but most of you guys already know that anyway. So we're really, preaching to the choir at that point. So, but I think that's what, Blake, correct me if I'm wrong, that'll be the goal here for the next couple episodes on the Mondays. We'll do it the first Monday of every month, and we're going to do a mix of, world affairs, what's going on, and then some updates and maybe some other things. Like, so as we continue, I'm going to talk about some classes, or, what somebody said to us or sent me in an email after one of our last episodes. And then a conversation I had with somebody the other night about what would be maybe a smaller thing that we could do. And just kind of, it's almost like a loadout, and we'll get to that in a second. We could do 4 of those, but Blake, does that kind of add to what you're kind of getting at, or does that kind of help the stage?
No, I think it does, because I mean, entropy kind of dictates that this is all going to just keep getting crazier and crazier. We saw a definite speed up starting around the COVID era. Really, if you want to be accurate, at the end of the Obama administration, the beginning of the Trump administration, everything really started shuffling. The board changed, and it's something that I have a hard time squaring too, because like Trump's a freaking enigma. Like everybody right now is pretty much freaking out about him, and it can be one of two things only. And I'm a bit of a pessimist, so it's either that he really is the people's champion, he's really going to try to fight, as he says, or everybody's freaking in on it, or he's got dirt on everyone. It's just a changing of the order. Either way, it leads to chaos. I mean, because that's the thing. You have a cornered animal, and they're looking at all their empire being torn down. Well, they're going to lash out in anger. I mean, we've seen that twice. And Mark, you had this fantastic point the other day I didn't even think about, and that's January 6th bombers. We have no real information about it. We now know how many FBI informants were on the ground then. Friggin' insane. Then on top of that, we've had 2 confirmed assassination attempts on the now soon-to-be president, the president-elect, whereas then he was just presidential candidate. And we don't have hardly crap on these people. But yet we have a random truck bombing in a Tesla at the Trump Tower in Vegas, and we know what this guy had for breakfast and the consistency of his last bowel movement. Like, come on here. That's insane that we have that much information, but we still don't have good answers, which then tells you something glows here. Something, the feds are doing something. We're getting this information for some reason. Why?
And let me just add to that, because, you did a pretty good job of paraphrasing our conversation, but we don't know anything about the January 6th bomber. And I'm here to tell you, from having been out stationed in DC, that's where Langley is, the CIA is. I've done a lot of training out there. I'm here to tell you, I just call bullshit on that. And I'm on the record. I think I said, if I was back in the agency or FBI, anywhere with those resources, if I had access to the resources I knew we had 12 years ago, I would have had that figured out. Just same thing with whoever leaked. I'm kind of jumping there, but whoever leaked, some of the Supreme Court information, that caused that. Yeah. I'm like, I would have had that solved. I'm not fucking around here, boys and girls. I would have probably been drilling down on my one subject within 24 hours. My one, this I think is the person. I would have probably had that figured out in 48 hours. And that's not saying, oh, look at me. Anybody with that information and access to it could have done that same thing because of technology.
It has to be done.
Yeah. And then just to that other point. So we don't know anything about I thought this was an insurrection. I thought this was, worse than 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. And you're telling me we don't know who set those bombs? The vice president elect was there that's just bullshit, boys and girls. So again, to Blake's point, something's glowing here, right? And we lost the records and we did none of that shit makes sense. And just to that same note, 2 days after I think it was a day. Was it a day or 2 days? Within 48 hours after the New Orleans bomber, there's a fucking media crew in his house walking through. That is not. Yeah, and again, in the Quran's open, they've left everything just the perfect way, and no one's calling bullshit on that, and yet here we are. We know everything about, like you said, we know what the Tesla bomber had for breakfast that morning, but we don't know what. The guy who tried to kill President Trump in Pennsylvania, we don't know anything about that guy, except that his house was so clean. It was like disinfected hospital level. Like that's all we know. That's
a cleaning crew, like the cleaning crew came through, the professionals that just drive little black vans and no one talks about.
And to that point, just to bring it back over to, because I kind of sidetracked this, but we're not talking about the drones anymore. Just like no one's talking about the reconnaissance or surveillance balloons that flew over a country. There's so many things that we're not talking about. We're not talking about Nord Stream. We're not talking about why are there vessels that we are saying are Chinese or Russian that are out there cutting. I don't know if it's just necessarily telecom, but they're
fiber optic internet cable. Yeah.
So all of these weird things are going on, but again, you're like, oh, look at this story. And all of a sudden another story smacks you on the other side of the face or over here. And I think to me, that's really the point, I guess, or that's the underlying tension that makes me kind of, as Blake and I were talking, say, you know what, let's just see what happens here in the next 3 months. Use that time to get our shit together, figure things out, because if this goes in one direction, and we'll go into this in a second, if this really is League of Shadows and super evil, and if Trump really is legit, and if he's going to exercise the power that he and his administration has through the Constitution, I'm not saying anything, outside of that, but he is in charge and he has power. And if he comes in and uses that power legitimately, there are people, in my opinion, who are going to go to jail. And I don't think the people we're talking about are the types that are going to go quietly into the night. So that kind of feeds into what Blake's getting at. So what kind of motherfucking roller coaster are we going to be on here for the next, 30 to 160 days?
Well, I mean, it could be, that's the thing. It's, say Trump gets in securely, takes the presidency, survives, all that good stuff. Well, they're not going to stop. And that's the thing is, I think everybody's committed now. And when you go, okay, well, who's everybody? Who are they? Well, it's your global powers. It's your Russia. It's your China. It's the United States. It's Israel and the Levant. It's Iran. Everybody's throwing their freaking cards on the table. They're like, okay, well, it's go time. And that's the thing. I don't think you could actually have a historian of the future look back at this day and age and not go, 2019 began World War III. It was when a biological weapon attack or whatever you want to call it happened, which drove the world into insane measures that spiraled into global conflict on multiple fronts, whether it was digital, electronic, the mind, physical, in multiple different areas around the globe.
Spiritual, familial, spiritual, family, community, all of those things are seriously.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man, is it's, you look at everything going on right now, take it in the totality as much as you can, a 10,000 foot view. Man, these are historic times, crazy times, World War III times, global conflict times, changing of everything. It's 100 years goes by and nothing happens. And then in a decade, 100 years happen. Well, we're in that decade right now.
I actually think that is, no, there's decades where there's no history. And there's days or weeks where there's decades of history. I think that's
regardless, man, it's wild times, and it just keeps getting wilder. And and that's the thing is when for 3 weeks we saw first what were called drones and then orbs in the sky, and everybody was looking up. Yeah, a lot of it was because people were looking up for the first time in their life. Good. You should. Like, that's like a thing, like connect yourself back to the world and the universe, because when you're stuck here looking in your phone or your computer screen, you forget about what the world is. So it's great that people were looking up. So a lot of people were seeing things and panicking. But what's crazy to me is, whatever this is, because it's still going on right now, but what's crazy is that the panic that ensued in a matter of weeks. People were freaking out, man. I mean, we were hearing stories here up in the north woods of Minnesota. We were getting calls in. You could hear over the police radio calls happening where people were like, "Hey, I'm seeing stuff." I've talked to personal friends that saw stuff, and people don't know what the heck is what all's going on. So to be able to be whipped up into such a frenzy in such a short period of time, the general public, and then turn it off because now no one's talking about it. They've moved on to the next thing. That's incredible to be able to do to a people. And it shows you how programmed the vast majority of people are now. Whether what we're talking about is completely a load of bull hockey or not is irrelevant to the fact that, I mean, people really do just kind of go with what they're told nowadays.
And it's become very politicized and factions, Hey, let me just kind of do kind of going back. So VTech Moonwalker, this was when we were talking, he's like, it's a big force that can't catch us all, when we were talking about the guy out there, on the ocean with his mask on, or him being able to take time to go hiking. Gene is saying he misses having his chicken, so he's pretty stoked for you with yours. Now, John is coming in, and then so I just made a note of it as we kind of start developing what we're going to do. Again, some of this is going to be not open to the general public. Other stuff will be the next 3 months. It'll be a lot like this, and maybe we'll kind of tone these next ones down and be a little bit more focused on like some specific information. This is just the beginning of the new year, and we're just kind of getting the info out. But John's very excited about the homesteading classes. And I already just thought about somebody who we really would want to get on with that, and that'd be Brian. He's been on my show before because him and his dad have homesteaded from start soup to nuts. So he's got a ton of building their houses and everything. So, that homesteading though, honestly, Blake, we're going to have to take a step back, because that really could be, what does that mean? We're going to talk about how to do a concrete floor and set in your own plumbing, or, we just going to be focused more on, chicken, firewood, self-reliance, sustainable, but we don't have to have that answer now, but you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in real quick. I think that's one of the beautiful parts about the concept of Millstone is the hope is to bring multiple people in with multiple different disciplines. And really what we want to do is what you guys want us to do to an extent. Obviously, we want to do what's fun too, and we want to do certain things that we're pretty passionate about. But if there's something the community wants us to do, we're going to look into that, because, it's kind of what this is about. It's driving that community and building together. So.
Yeah. So on that note, do it here in the live stream if you want. In the chat, I'm writing notes, and I've got notes for Millstone, or do it. Leave a comment on the video afterwards if you're watching this on demand, or shoot an email, because we are compiling a list of and I'm going to get to some of that here in a little bit, like some of the things that we think are, again, small enough yet still meaningful that we could do in an hour long just in this setting here, and it doesn't even have to be in what we really are.
A polished video. Yeah,
exactly. So continuing on, just to get caught up, Gene, after the 20th of this month, things should get better. Hey, speaking of eggs, I'm putting my eggs in that basket, Gene. I don't know.
Especially when eggs are like $7 plus a basket, or a dozen now.
dozen.
Which, by the way, I sell them for $5 a dozen. If anyone needs eggs, I got your eggs. So
I highly recommend those are good eggs. Although, in one of our Millstone videos, I'm going to talk about water glassing, because, I think that last batch I may have done something a little bit wrong, because one of my dozen wasn't good. The eggs didn't show that they were bad, but I don't think I did the lime or something, the lye right or correctly. So Gene is saying misdirection is the key. Plus they have scaly skin. Then Savage Lee is making a good joke. I don't know if you saw this about that Millstone. I'd planned on using a blender. I'm not baking bread for a Roman legion. Hey man, you might be, it's your neighborhood. It's your community. I don't know. You do you, but then he's kind of following up. America's following Germany as ruined from central banking, destroying another civilization through usury. Yeah. And that's another kind of conversation. That's another reason I think people aren't going to go quietly into the night, because they've been taking so many, Ursery, this isn't necessarily Ursery one, but it falls in that same vein of greed and corruption. And I think that is rampant. I mean, so, there you go. William, we got quest views. William Bramley associated UFO sightings with the genesis of the Black Plague. And then as we get into that, I mean, like, that's just the thing. If our government is just like, either feigning ignorance or showing their ignorance, well, then we've got to start making assumptions. Again, it is speculation. What then is this? Is this some of this shit's looking like Ezekiel's wheel? I mean, like, I'm not going to sit there and say one way or the other. We got AVV in the house coming in late. He says, just got done listening to you and Jack from, that's right. I was on Black Scout Survival, his live stream this morning with Jack from Black Scout Survival. It's always a pleasure being on over there. Hey, AVV, tell me how I did. I'm old. I was still drinking my cup of coffee and shit. It's the morning, trying to get these creaky bones going. I'm not sure how much time it takes for that brain muscle to get going. And then we've got, and then Paul, BCP. Yeah, homesteading's, that's how I would look at it. It's really being about more self-reliant and, it's not necessarily off the grid, but definitely, self-reliant outside of that supply chain and all those considerations or those, those failures. And I think we've seen a lot about that going back to AVV. So I was talking to Jack after that live stream, and, you just don't ever have enough time in this. And I don't know if I'm taking us into a rabbit hole here, but so back to the other things we don't have time to talk about and focus on. No one's talking about, we still have chicken, poultry facilities. We have food facilities, cattle, poultry, chickens, supply chain, bridges. We have all kinds of stuff that's still, amazingly catching on fire or blowing up. So we have this erosion and this weakness. So, that self-reliance and being able, like, okay, that sucks. And eggs are $6 a dozen. Thank God I've got Blake in my community who's got eggs, and I'm the guy who's got a bunch of venison, and like, I'm filling everybody's tags, and we're doing that. We're keeping everything going. I think that is a very crucial step. That's going to be a big step of my life. It should, we knock on wood, all survive and not die in a nuclear fireball, or some other just fucked up dystopian cyberpunk shit, but, yeah, you have to, there's no more doing it the old way, in my humble opinion. You've got to find a new way of doing it going forward. That's why I really like Millstone.
Well, the old way. Yeah, doing it the old way. You got to do it the old way before the old way was around. So, because the old way is the lazy way, right? So,
yeah, the old way was Amazon. No, you can't. No. You got to go back to having the neighbors and getting out there and doing stuff. And, and that does mean you've got to have the skills, the tools, the ability, the area, terrain, all that kind of stuff needs to come in. And hopefully we can share some of our background and our knowledge. And like Blake said, more importantly, bring on other like-minded individuals who have more of that knowledge and resources and skills in areas that we don't. That's just how you would want to do it, right?
Well, you kind of need to. Yeah, no one human being is capable of holding all that information inside their head. You need a group of people that have unique skills to bring to the table to basically, continue civilization, if you will. And it's not like my concern is that everything's collapsing. If you look at humanity, if anything, we're good at two things: killing each other and being really resilient and not dying. Like, what is it? I think no less than 4 genetic bottlenecks that humanity's been put through where we should have basically been gone. Global conflicts, viruses. The list goes on and on and on how many times we really should be dead. So we're going to continue. I'd like to be one of them that continues, though.
Well, we'll continue if we're given a chance.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Well, and I need to make that chance. That's the other thing. I think by building communities like this and learning this information and helping each other out, that's how you make that chance. That's how you get the shot. Because if you don't do that, you don't have the shot. I'd way rather be able to sit down at the bench and try to pull the trigger.
Okay. I'll give you that one. And also, I think that's also a little bit of spirituality. And, by doing that, you're creating, I know this is going to sound kind of hippy dippy or whatever, but you're creating more positive energy, so you know, if nothing else, as we said before, you know, to C.S. Lewis, you know, then you'll be in the bar having a beer and throwing darts, you know, with your buddies when the nukes go off, you know, type of thing. So, you know, if it's going to happen, you know, would you rather be in a hole crying about it, or would you rather be out, like, you know, laughing in its face and taunting it, you know? But I think I want to try to survive it is, you know, my ultimate goal, what I was trying to say there. So, you know, and that's going to come from, again, as Blake said, you can't do it by yourself. I can't remember what movie it was. You know, if you've watched any of my videos, you know, well, we all do. I mean, I think most of you guys and gals do as well. You know, I like pop culture. I love movies. You know, we already did a dystopian cyberpunk reference and shit, but I don't remember what movie it was, but you know, somebody was, you know, being all badass and stuff. And then, you know, the other real badasses are like, you know, dude, there ain't no one who you can't do this by yourself. Just stop. You're actually being an idiot right now. You're not being helpful. I get it. You're a macho man and but there's just no way, you know, like, you know, it ain't going to happen. That flies in the face of reality. And I hate to say this. I think a lot of our culture though, Blake, over, you know, as you just said, you know, not the old way, but the really old way, because the old way was lazy. And a lot of our culture has become lazy. And through modern medium and technology and TikTok and all that shit, and ScrewTube. Hey, I watched a YouTube video. Now I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert. There's a lot of that kind of mentality out there. Yeah. And I think that's.
No, I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I've been rambling. You go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's one of the most important things that any one person can do. First thing you should do is kill your ego. Like, really, honestly, it doesn't serve you any purpose. It's that voice that tears you down, and we all are going to have it. You can't kill it completely, but learn to swallow it. Like, you don't need credit for a thing. You don't need to be the best at something. You just do the best you can and have people around you that make you better. You know, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong damn room. You know, try to have people around you that can help build you and make you stronger, build your community, be an asset. And you got a lot better chance than most people, because most people right now they're thinking about how they can get one up on their neighbor in this situation instead of going, how do I help my neighbor get out of this situation?
Yeah. That reminds me of that, again, that kind of prepper thing I saw, went to with Cousin Husband last summer. Yeah. And that guy just talking about it, you know, he was going to, I'm just like, and honestly, boys and girls, I failed. I should have said something. I should have called him out. And I don't care if it was public and in front of a bunch of people. You know, I didn't do it, you know, but that's it. You know, oh, it's politeness. It's not my event. This was a man who was saying something that I adamantly am opposed to. Like, in other words, that man also identified himself as your enemy. He came right out and said, I'm willing to do you harm to take your shit, to take care of me and my family.
Yeah, I am the enemy of civilization. Yeah.
Well,
I don't get how people like that.
Yeah, Gene just said, be a clan, not a macho man. I like that. Gene's got some good ones there. Savage Lee has a good one here too, though. He just said, as the light of burning cities lights the night sky, I'll quietly think to myself, sucks to be them. I don't know if that's from a movie or not, Savage Lee, but that's pretty good. Yeah. Well, and sucks to be them. And don't forget, you know, a week from that moment, those refugees and survivors are going to be coming through your neck of the woods. And because you live in the country, they think, you know, because everybody in the country's got tons of food, right? You know, that's what the country is, according to city people. So I remember having a conversation about that. And I think that's maybe a precursor to this whole, you know, Millstone. Blake, I'll just tell my story and then I'll shut up. I really am rambling here tonight, but I remember somebody talking about, you know, and they lived in Illinois and they lived south of, like, you know, near the southern part of the state. And they were talking and like, oh, I'm a country girl. I'm a badass, you know, this, that. And I'm just like, that's awesome. What happens when there's 100 hungry refugees who walk by your house one day and, you know, you got a little bit of a farm or something that they think is a farm, something that they think means tons of food and shelter and all that stuff. It's 100 one day, you know, because there's major metropolitan areas to the north. You know, the survivors are going to be going south. And then the next day it's 1,000. And the day after that, it's 10,000. You're like, what are you going to like so you're a badass country girl. How is that going to save your life? Like, so in your plan was to throw the horses and shit over there so they go and rip those things apart and you grab your bug out bag and run out the back door. If that's your plan, okay, maybe, but like you alone aren't going to do shit when there's 100 or 1,000 people walking down your driveway or walking down your road in your neighborhood on their way to wherever they don't know they're going to go with no food or water or whatever. And they look over and they see you.
Yeah.
Better have a clan. Like Gene said, better have a clan. Don't be a macho man, because that shit, yeah, okay, might sound good and maybe that works in some zombie movies, but that's not real life.
Well, and that's the thing. That's your most powerful weapon, the most destructive one. Displaced people. I mean, it's a weapon that's been used since the dawn of time, and now has been honed into a really freaking effective one. And we've been dealing with that on our southern border in the United States, and you guys across the pond have been dealing with that across the British Channel and up from the Straits of Gibraltar. I mean, like, you know, we've been seeing this being used as a weapon. I mean, Gaddafi even talked about it. You kill me and the floodgates fall. And what happened? You know, and that's the thing. So now imagine that on a scale, on almost an incomprehensible scale, if something does happen where power goes out for a while, or maybe some nukes do get exchanged, or maybe these are little green men flying around upside. Like, imagine the sheer panic when everybody freaks out, leaves where they are, like, oh my gosh. That's the true weapon. That's the true damage that no one can comprehend. It's more devastating than anything else.
I highly doubt there's really a nation state out there today that has the resources and the infrastructure to control that and mitigate that.
Maybe North Korea.
Well, yeah, you'd have to be small enough where the government control is overwhelming.
It already exists.
Yeah.
That's also been paranoid since the Cold War and been building their entire nation into underground bunkers. They're maybe the only ones that could weather something like that, and that's because they're a bunch of freaking psychopath, paranoid assholes.
Yeah. Well, and zombie, robot-esque, and I'm sure that's not the case. I mean, we're not slandering. We're just saying, from a political perspective, and a government cultural, that's kind of is the truth. And but just to your point, I was just thinking about it in my head. Any one of those scenarios that you just the moment that cities start displacing, where are those people going to go? And how? And I just posit the question to everybody: what do you think you think those people are going to be your countrymen? They think they're going to be walking through and they're starving and their kids are starving and they see your generator and you've got a year's supply of food. I mean, are they going to be like, yeah, I got it. You were better prepared. I wish we were. We're going to just hopefully keep walking for another 100 miles. There's supposedly a Red Cross camp or something set up, what is that world going to look like should that happen? And it might seem like Blake and I are just like, throwing stones right now, but really, I mean, are we not just one little weird event away from something very similar, or that event itself taking place? Blake?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, yeah, that's a very, very real possibility. And to the point Savage Lee just made is, yes, you're right. Absolutely. Most of them are going to die. Like, especially your drug addicts and your drug addict the ones that are already crime. But man, you put a family that got far enough away up against hard times and they got 3 starving kids in the back of a van and that dad's got a wheel gun on his hip and there's a prospect of being able to get a little something done. Chaos just unfolds. Yeah. And let's say 100,000 people make it out of the city, just the first mile out of the city. Well, about 1% of them, I think, safely are going to be able to make it at least 100 miles away. The other 99% might die and freeze on the side of the road, but that's still 1,000 desperate, starving individuals fanning out among every major city that there is. I mean, like, even if it's just an iota of them survive, they're desperate, they're starving, they're terrified, and man, oh man, people do crazy, horrible things when they're in those mindsets, and that's my concern.
I think Savage Lee in that comment there, which is a good comment, a little bit of humor and a little bit of reality. And I think that kind of goes into, the conversations Blake and I have had, many times, I love Northern Minnesota. I hate Minnesota's and don't blame Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. Don't blame the rest of the state on that.
Yeah.
If depending on how you view your politics. And so again, Minnesota, the Minnesota Star Tribune just came out and ran an article this morning. Again, go back to the live stream I did with Jack talking about some of these recent events and the bombings. But they ran an article basically already saying that veterans are the most likely terrorists, and we can expect to see more of this. So there's already this being painted. And so that's what you get in my state. That wasn't a rational thought out article. That was nothing more than PSYOPs propaganda to get people to start like, yeah, I'm not worried about this, that, or the other thing, these real threats. I don't need to talk about drones. I don't need to talk about, why don't we know who the January 6th bomber? I don't need to talk about any of that. I just think, yeah, damn it. Veterans, especially if they're white males, those are evil people and we need to condemn them. So back to your point, Blake, and I didn't even know I was going to do this, is that begs the question too. Like, a narrative is already being set up, and that isn't just now being set up. That was also part of the last 4, 8, 12 years where certain groups of people, like, this whole thing about self-reliance and prepping. Think about it. Where does prepping, how is that a negative word? How does that ever, or where should that ever have a negative connotation? If you're an adult and if you have a wife, a husband, kids, a family, however you want to say it, and you're not prepared, doesn't that make you kind of a really bad adult? I mean, like, your job is to be prepared. You got a family to take care of.
Exactly. And that's a really important thing. I mean, and I think where this all happened was it's kind of like conspiracy theories, prime example of this. Back in the day, conspiracy theorist wasn't really a term until I think it was like the 70s is when it was really coined, and it was used to try to make people sound crazy when they had legitimate questions to ask. Same kind of thing with prepper. Okay, well, what is prepper? It's preparation. You're preparing something. Okay, well, when we shorten it and say prepper, doesn't that sound kind of like a dirtier word? So it's the ability to weaponize language. And that's really at the crux of everything we've been witnessing. I mean, going back, really ramping up in the second term of Obama, when they started bringing back a lot of the race-based politics, the race baiting, the, hey, let's be attacking your brother instead of trying to help each other out. Okay, that was established by weaponizing language, changing the definitions of things, indoctrination in the school level, things like that. And that's really the most powerful weapon that any totalitarian government has, is language. It's because really language is magic. I mean, if you really want to get down to it.
Or the control of language, because that can be narrative or censorship. It's kind of the two sides of the same coin right there.
Exactly. So that's kind of the concern. And that's really where the first battlefield of this conflict started. It was in the minds of everybody and the way that things were talked about. And by doing that, you're able to go hate that veteran who's white, or hate that person that's making more money than you, or hate this, that, or the other, and making it, well, quite frankly, taking a book right out of Marx. It's class warfare. It's the struggle between the other, and the whole time they've got us fighting over bullshit, pardon my French. They're all just making oodles and gobs of money on top of us and fighting. And I hate to say it, but there's some truth to that. These are the methods that are used, and it's a lot of different angles. But yeah, and once communism failed, they realized, okay, we're going to repackage it, and it became postmodernism out of the French intellectualism movement of the 70s, and it's something we're still battling with to this day. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go because my little man is freaking out here, and I got to get him some food. But Mark, there was a question we wanted to bring up before going. Do you want to do that real quick?
Yeah. Well, we're almost at an hour. So if the little man is he going to destroy the house? And we got 5 minutes, or can he make it?
I think he's all right for a bit. I just have been hearing him screaming downstairs, and I think Mom's going to need a hand soon. So, yeah.
Well, so let's just kind of start wrapping it up. We're at almost an hour anyway. And I just think, we've got a couple good comments come in, and we're really, again, tonight, our whole goal tonight was to do exactly what we did, is just, and just go all the way back to the beginning, to Blake's point. We haven't even covered all the other important things that are taking place right now. We barely have the time. And this has been one of the fastest hours. This has been an hour. And do you really feel like we've, laid things out in it's, and I think that's by design. It's really hard.
Yeah, I feel like all we've done is taken a grinding wheel to a hardened piece of steel and the blade's just skipping off and we haven't even gotten through that hardened surface yet. And that's the thing. There's so much constantly going on. And really these last 2 months, I did family stuff. I didn't really follow the news like I have. And like, I started kind of looking into things again last week. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So everything's still on fire. It's like that meme of that dog sitting at the bar going, this is fine. Everything's fine. While the entire bar is in flames around.
Yeah.
That really is our world right now. And maybe I am just being a bit of a crazy person, looking at a little too much, but man, it's a lot happening, dude. And I've always loved history. I've always considered myself a student of history in the sense of it's just something I truly enjoy. And there are times in history that are kind of like this. It reminds me of that saying is it's history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. Well, we're rhyming a lot of verses right now.
And it's not really a good, this is like a limerick. This is like a dirty limerick. The rhymes, involve things with thick, or Rick, there's a lot of bad words in this.
It's not classy at all. It's just going to bend you over the barrel and you're not going to enjoy it.
No. Okay. Hey, but I do want to I'm going to do the comments real quickly. And then I want you to kind of wrap it up on your side. I just want to throw two things for you. So I do like what Savage Lee, just kind of where we left off. I mean, one of the kind of points there is, live in the country. I mean, seriously, look, or have a game plan and have your thresholds, your concentric rings or your tripwires, however you want to look at it. And don't be afraid of like, this isn't looking good, honey. We're going to go live with your mom and dad for a week, or I'm going to work remote. If you can do it, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in the middle of chaos when chaos is taking place. So, if you can't get out in the country, and if you get out in the country, don't try to bring your city stuff and piss all the country people off.
Right.
That's what happens here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Blend in as best as you can, because I've had some very serious conversations with some very close friends recently. It's kind of figuring out, hey, are we all on the same sheet of music? And I'm not going to go into any further of that, but in those cases, if you are picking up stakes, going somewhere else, you've got a plan or something like that. Also understand the area you're going into, because I'll tell you, a lot of these small communities, if something does become so bad, like really, really, really bad, a lot of these communities are going to lock down. And if they don't know you, you're not going to be welcome. So learn the local customs, be on your best behavior, bring something to the table, help out where you can, be that, I hate to be like cliche here, but be that change you want to see in your community. Actually help.
The other way, and people have said this, we've said it, be an asset, not an ass hat. Bring something to your community and bring something positive, right? As opposed to you guys have been doing this your whole lives, but you're idiots, and I'm going to show you. I mean, look, if your thing is better, but don't piss in people's cornflakes, there might be a cultural or historic reason or something.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Gene is just basically saying that the people who, those friends, if not true, will take into have nothing and have no use. I hate to say it. Well, you could love somebody, but again, be an asset. Figure out what you can do that makes you value added to any scenario, right? So, and maybe it's your humor. Maybe it's your, you can figure out math, and that's going to help figure out how much to ration food or whatever it is. You'd have my job. I suck at math unless I can count it, I ain't going to be that guy.
I did the math and I was wrong. Turns out I'm just really bad at math.
I'm just really bad at math. Yep. Savage Lee, it's okay to be scared. We all are. Nothing like this has ever happened in my life in America anyway. And that's just it. I think that's the point we're trying to make, Savage Lee's. We are in uncharted territories, and this could break in so many different directions, so many different ways. And even the worst case scenario might not be that bad. And even the best case scenario might have, a whole bunch of shit sandwich involved in it too. I mean, we just don't know.
For sure. And I think though that being scared is the right response. I mean, it really is. One, it means we're still taking in nourishment, man. We're still standing upright, because if we can be scared, we're alive. Two, Yeah, it's some crazy stuff, and it's the right response is scared, fear. I mean, that's a healthy thing. We've developed this over the millennia to keep us alive. What you do with that fear, now that's on you.
Yeah.
And that's the real important thing, is what you do with that fear. Are you going to channel that and use it as the fuel you need to get your family prepared, to be ready, to be able to square off against the monsters in the shadow? Or are you going to cower back into your own cave and den and just let the world pass you by? I mean, this is the moment.
Or are you going to resort to the dark side and start killing innocent people and taking their shit?
And that's just it, man. This is the stuff that defines great men. This is the stuff that changes the world. I mean, if anything, I mean, as terrifying as it is, I'm excited to see where it's going to go, because it's not where we've been. Whether it's good or bad or something else, it's part of the story. It's one of the biggest chapters of human history, and we are here to witness it. But fight so you can witness it.
That's right. I mean, it's never over until you say it's over. Hey, let me just read these real quickly, just to give everybody, they took the time. So, and then I just want to give it, and the thing, like I said, to bring it over to you to end it. Gene, I can't remember what we're saying, but he was talking about that people. It's so disrespectful that it's two people who go into harm's way, that so others can go to their place safely. I have no druthers that here where I live, there are a lot of people who would say, well, there's a crisis and you need to give up some of your stuff for the better of the community. Like, you're not, I don't know you guys. What the hell are you talking about? How come you don't have any of your own shit? Well, but you do. So we need, so I don't know if that's what you're getting at, Gene, but that's actually one of my biggest concerns where I kind of live. Rob Mack, hey, I don't think we've seen you over here before, Rob. Glad you could make the live stream. Conspiracy theory was coined after the JFK was unalived. I think that's about right, wasn't that? Or would Project Blue?
Yeah, no,
that.
No, he's right. Yeah, as soon as he said it, it was absolutely coined after the JFK assassination, because there was too many questions that were going on, legitimate questions that they needed to be able to distract from. And ever since then, that term, as well as many others, have been used to completely deflate movements.
Yep, and that's just PSYOP stuff right there too.
Yeah.
Blackbeard, if someone doesn't know the password and he's giving you a hint, there is no admittance. You must know the password. You shall not pass. John with 2 comments, then I'm going to kind of wrap it up. Blake, thanks for hanging on. Is the little man doing okay still?
He's a lot better now. He was just a little cold after bath time, it sounds like. So
okay.
Right, I get it. I don't like my balls to be cold either. So
that may have been too much. That has nothing to do with self-reliance, Blake. Self-reliance, anyway. We need to John saying we need to concentrate on us and our community, the capacity to help and teach those in need, and how to be self-sufficient. Focus on the present. Yeah, with an eye towards don't forget tomorrow, though, right? Don't sacrifice tomorrow for today. Yeah. Meet your destiny on the road to meet your destiny on the road to avoid it. Take it day by day. Your brain and skills are more important than all the ammo and food you have stocked away. Yeah, all that shit will be meaningless if you panic, allow fear to overtake you, or evil, or however you want to phrase that. I agree with you right there, Gimli. Yeah, keep it up here and keep it here. You'll find a way. You'll figure it out. May not be pretty, and maybe not everybody makes it through, and you could have done better, but we always could have done better, right? I mean, isn't that the truth?
Story of human life or humanity, man. We could have always done better, but we do.
Yeah. But so do your best, though, within, again, we all take it. It's in reason. Hey, Blake, what I wanted to come over to you for was, so I had a couple other notes, but they were so far back. I just want to throw one out. So as an option of what we might be seeing and what is taking place. So Blake and I might just get him going here for about the next 30 minutes. So let's just say this is either, this is terrestrial technology. This is technology that either us, China, Russia, all three of us, let's say this is technology. We're talking about the drones and everything and there really are flying saucers or extraterrestrials, but most of the UFOs you see are the stuff that one government or one League of Shadows has been working on. If that, and maybe we're starting to see this now, and maybe the drums of war are beating, because going back to what you just said, Blake, if you come out and admit that you've been sitting on this technology for the last, freaking 80 years, not quite 80 years, let's just say, and that comes out, there's going to be some chaos. So how do you maybe lessen that and find a way where you can let some of this come out? A war. And then like World War I, where you went from horses and bullets to machine guns, biplanes, and tanks and mustard gas,
And I think that's the thing. It gives the perfect excuse to be able to slow drip these technologies, but do it so in a rapid way where people, hey, all right, I'll buy that. Yeah, we're at war. Massive funding's been put into it, but in the same breath, it's probably where those trillions of dollars have been going all these years already, right? So that's kind of the thing, is the more you look into this, the more you're like, all right, man, I don't trust anything you say anymore anyway. So why the heck am I going to trust this? And the thought, even though I totally think you're probably right, that's probably what's happening, but the thought of using a global conflict where millions and millions and millions of young men and women die so that you can get your technology controlled and out in the public so that it's not just, available to the general public. Because, oh, God forbid, every household in the world has access to limitless energy or something along those lines that would improve the quality of life across the board. No. We have to meter it and regulate it and make sure we make our money on it. And did I mention the fact that we're going to kill hundreds of millions of people to do it?
Yep. Well, but don't forget. So maybe the people who get to benefit from that afterwards are part of that group that you want, or you only meet it out, or, ration it out in smaller quantities or capabilities. Like, hey, you don't have the ability or the house or the capacity to have this flux capacitor in your house, but we can have one flux capacitor on this block. And then if you guys all live in little, box houses and eat bugs, you'll have free energy for the rest of your life. Some evil shit like that, man.
Well, and that's kind of like the joke we were talking about. You best start believing in a cyberpunk dystopia because you're living in one. And unfortunately, it's not going to have the cool aesthetics where it's like you're eating ramen in a rainy street where there's Mandarin and English and neon signs all around you, and you get to go do things like hunt Blade Runners. No, you're just going to eat the bugs and get pounded every single day by Big Daddy government. And you're going to like it until we, liquidate you for the fungus farms to make food for your offspring.
Soylent Green is people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that was one thing. Okay. So I just wanted to throw that out there because you talked about, this new tech and how it could be, and then to me, I saw a correlation between that and your World War I story. But as we go forward, so again, leave us comments, right? Thanks to everybody watching tonight. I'm going to kind of turn this over to Blake here for his final comments in the outro. But leave a comment, send an email, put it in the, on demand. Let us know what you want to start seeing, because the one thing I think we're going to start with, because it's smaller and I think it's manageable for the right here, right now, and we can still do a good job, and I think it'll still be beneficial, and I think everybody can chime in. So I was talking to Jeremy, aka Redbeard, and he was talking about weapons cleaning kits, and anyway, without going into too many detail. And then I just came up with a stupid term, 4F, like F as in Foxtrot, because there's like 4 things that to me in your rucksack or in your car or wherever, they're small little kits. This isn't anything crazy, but I think everybody should have it. You should have, if you carry a firearm, you better have a way to maintain it, right? So that's one. You got to have some type of basic first aid kit, and you got to know how to use it. I think another thing that everybody always overlooks is foot or field hygiene. Foot maintenance, field hygiene.
Seriously important.
So that would be another one. And then the last of the F's would be, honestly, you need to have a good fire kit. So whether you call it fire or fire signal. So again, we're talking small kits, and I'm plugging my gear, but this is because it's right there. But like maybe it's in a belt pouch size kit. Maybe it's a little bit of a larger kit. Maybe every kit is slightly different. Honestly, the med kit we make for Black Scout Survival, that would be a great and very robust first aid kit. It's not as good as having your own big ass box kit like you were an EMT, which I have one right over there. And Blake, he's seen it. He knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. But having something is better than nothing. And, and these to me seem like some pretty often overlooked territory. So Blake, that's my final comment right there. What do you got? As maybe that plus the homesteading, or here's the things I wish my grandfather would have taught me type of conversations. you know, as we
And that's
go
where we want to go into.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the stuff. It's, I mean, it's a lot of what we've talked about already, but try to do a little more refined. And one of our goals is, and I'm going to make this kind of quick because, yeah, he's starting to get pissy. But one of our goals is to be able to make a little more polished of a video that we put out that's going to be about one of these sorts of topics, like Mark was saying with the 4Fs, or something along the lines of, you know, hey, what I wish my granddad had taught me, you know, as a video topic. That was a comment from one of the people that watch us. So to do something along those lines, put these videos out, and then after they go out, do something like a live stream afterhand with a question and answer. So it gives some time for people to watch the video, get their questions, go, okay, I like this. Now I understand the big thrust of what we're going to talk about. And then we'll do a live question and answer afterhand where we can go and dig into some of the specific nitty gritty if you guys want to, or, you know, really kind of talk about whatever. But that's kind of where we're looking at going for the spring, is a little more refined classes. And then, oh, go ahead, Mark.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, and I know you're going to the kid, but just say that one more time a little bit slower, because I think, because that was what I really liked, the video. Yeah. And then a live afterwards, because that's about as close as we can come to doing a real class, a hands-on class as possible. Exactly. So
because then it does give that interaction.
Yeah, give everybody that idea again.
Yeah, so I mean that's the hope. A little more polished videos, probably the first one you're going to see out. There are going to be some they'll be shorter, some they'll be longer. But the idea behind them is polished, getting the idea behind what we're talking about out in that video in a nice, precise manner, and then after the fact, doing a live stream, much like what we're doing right now, where you guys can interact with us, ask questions about the video you just watched, if you have specifics about the gear, how something's done, and then we can dig into it in live with you guys and kind of figure it out. And on that note, I have about got a meltdown happening. So I'm going to say, God bless you all. Thanks for listening to us prattle on for a little while about global events. We look forward to seeing you next month. God bless and Godspeed.
All right. Hey, say hi to everybody. Love you, brother. We'll talk to you. I'll probably give you a call a little bit, just AR.
Sounds good, guys. Love you all. God bless. Later. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Hey, boys and girls, thanks for being